I felt like defeated when I lay down, because I just was hoping that he wouldn't want to have sex with me, and but he did. So, but I think, like, I thought in my own mind that this was it now.
Kate, can you tell me what was your childhood like?
Well, my childhood actually wasn't that bad. My mum and dad divorced when I was 7, but it didn't seem to affect us that badly, and we kind of like had a decent childhood, really. It was a bit boring because it was a countryside, but nothing really eventful happened when I was younger. I moved out of my mum's house when I was 18, and I moved into the YMCA, which is like a supported living accommodation for teenagers. It was sort of between 16 and 25, but most people were around the age of 18. I was trying to, like, I don't know, I was being like typical, I don't know, what you see on TV when you want to be a friendly neighbour. And I was like, let me bake cakes for my neighbours, and so that's kind of how I met. That's how I met William. So we kind of like formed a little friendship group, and we would hang out together. Well, I was warned by some staff in the YMCA that William had some like unsavoury friends, and I actually didn't know what they meant by that. He introduced me to one of his friends, and that was Ali Sultan. You don't know what you're looking at when you see someone dangerous. I don't know, like I was so new that I didn't realise how dangerous they were. I just saw them as like the same way that I'd see anybody else from college, because they weren't like really old or anything. They were like the same age as, well, almost the same age as me. Maybe Ali was like 20 and I was 18. There was like slight indications of something brewing. Every now and then, if I saw members of their group like across the road or something like that, they'd make like blowjob symbols to me with their mouths by sticking their tongue in their cheek, and I'd just be like, that's weird, like weirdos. And then there was talk of this guy one of them getting out of prison. I heard a bunch of rumours about what he'd done to end up in prison. He'd randomly walked past somebody in the churchyard and beat them up and broken their jaw. So he'd gone to prison for GBH. And he was in prison for 1.5 years, and he was just getting out. That weekend is sort of when he first like came to knock on my door, and I looked through my little spy hole that I've got, and it was like a little kid. It was like an 8-year-old or something. So I opened the door to see what the kid wanted. And as soon as I opened the door, the kid had vanished. Like, I never actually saw him. And Shamil had put his foot, he was like hiding behind the wall, so that I couldn't see him through the spy hole before I'd opened the door. And he put his foot in the door and started to push his way in. And I was like really strongly trying to push him out. And I was pushing him out, and William was shouting to me, is that Shamil? And I said, yeah, thinking that maybe he'd come and help me push him out. But instead, William said, just let him in. So because William said, let him in, I let go of the door, which I really wish that I hadn't done now. But I don't think it would have made a difference. I think he would have got in anyway. he came in, he made some excuse to get rid of William. He said that Shazia was waiting for him around the corner at his flat because he lived on the opposite side of the building to me. And he went into, and then William just left. And then all of a sudden I was alone with Shamil. And that was quite horrible. He started circling me. He was like quite muscular because he'd been like working out at the gym, and he wanted me to know that, he sort of grabbed hold of me and put his arms around my neck, and not in a like I'm gonna strangle you way, but in sort of like what he felt was like a sexual way. And I was trying to push him off me, but actually when I tried to push him off me, he was tightening his grip, and then it felt like he's going to strangle me if I resist. So he was like trying to kiss me, and he was kissing me on the chest, and he was trying to kiss me on the lips, and I was like moving my face out of the way, and so he was just kissing my cheek, and I was trying to say that I didn't want him to kiss me, and I was trying to say that I was in a relationship. I was trying to come up with like reasons why he shouldn't be doing what he's doing, because I guess he was making me feel like I don't want to wasn't a good enough reason not to do it. But he just behaved in a way like he was completely ignoring me, as if he didn't hear what I was saying. Well, that was the first time I was raped, and I tried to use, what do you call it? Like negotiation to get out of it, but none of that actually worked. So it was like the first time that I kind of regretted what I'd done. And was it my fault, or was it his fault? Like, did I not because I'd negotiated rather than, because I had directly said no and then negotiated, but like, had I not been clear that that's not what I wanted? So I'd spent the week after that kind of totally in my head, like overrunning like everything that had happened. Like, was it me? Was it him? Did he have a learning disability? All these things. Like, did he not realise? Did he literally not hear me because he didn't respond? So when I was saying no, so didn't he hear me? And then everything else happened so quickly after that first rape that I was still in shock from the first rape. It was like an ongoing, I describe it as like an ongoing shock. Like, you have shock like at the time that it's happening, where you have like the fight or flight. But then I feel like I was like in a daze every day after that. Sorry, can we stop for a second?
Sure, take your time. Don't worry about us. So after that first rape happened, did you consider telling anyone? Police, family, friends, anyone?
I didn't know what to do at the time, and one of the things in my head was that I just wanted to pretend that it didn't happen, or maybe I could learn to like him, and then it was just like normal sex, like, so it wouldn't hurt, it wouldn't be upsetting, it would be okay, like, because like other times I'd had sex, like it was that's all it is. Like, it's just an action. It's just sex. So what does it have to feel so bad? It was the week of all my final exams, and I'd just been raped at the weekend, and I'd got 5 exams that week. One of the exams I just went into, and it was a psychology exam, and I just couldn't think, my head was just empty, because I was still in shock. So I'd sort of confided in the college counsellor, and she'd like encouraged me to talk to the police, and she said, even if you don't want to press charges, then you could just tell the police for like information, so that if he hurts someone else, then they've got it on record that he hurt you as well. She contacted the police for me, and they made an appointment for the end of that week to see them. When I was back home, Ali Sultan had knocked on my door. He brought a friend with him, and he wanted me to give them both oral sex, and I couldn't fight anymore, and I just feel like I said no, but I just gave up really easily, because it was scary now. Like, Ali was scary anyway, and then like after I'd been raped by Shamil, all the other stuff they were doing became really scary, like the blowjob symbols that I'd been ignoring before that, then became like really sinister and intimidating and scary. And I guess that's when I realised that it was real. So by the Saturday that I saw the police, like, I'd already been raped again twice. So I didn't realise at that time that I'd been raped by Ali Sultan, because I thought I'd given up, and I didn't think that, again, I felt like I wasn't fighting for myself enough. So I thought, like, mistakenly, that was consensual act, and I just felt really guilty about it, and I didn't realise that I could even report that. The policewoman that I spoke to, she was nice, but she had to seek advice from like her superior, and when the advice came back, it was, if you don't want him to be arrested, then you have to say it's consensual, because if you say that it's rape, then we have to arrest him. So they got me to write a statement to say that it was consensual sex, but I regretted it and I felt pushed into it. And I said that I didn't want him to be arrested, because I was scared of the repercussions from him or from his family members, because everybody knows where I live.
How did it progress from there, the abuse?
So I was raped by Ali on the Wednesday, and his friend, and then the next week I was raped by another one. I was William's friend, and they all like refused to use protection as well, and by that point completely like lost control over who I had sex with, and it changed the way that I viewed sex as well, and I became kind of like afraid of sex, and I didn't realise at the time like what the rules of consent really were. So I blamed myself for a lot of it, and that prevented me like going back to the police. I think especially because the police had like implied that what had happened with Shamil was consensual. So if even that wasn't rape, then the other times weren't rape either. So I didn't even think that anything was wrong, that they were doing anything wrong. I thought it was my fault. I thought that I'd made like some massive mistakes. in the way that I'd conducted myself, and I thought that I had given myself a reputation and that I deserved it because I'd made those, I'd set this up for myself, kind of thing. So sorry. And then kind of after that, I like literally I couldn't get away from them. I don't know whether they'd like taken a picture of me or whether they'd like pointed me out to people, but like strangers that I didn't know would come up to me in the street if I was like with my friends or if I was going to the shop. I even had one incident where these guys pulled up in their car and they said, "Are you Kate?" And I was like, how do they know who I am? There was like 4 of them in the car. And I didn't, but none of them were any of the guys that I'd ever met. So, they were saying, "Oh, we've heard that your oral skills are very good," and so I knew that they must know Ali because Ali was coming round regularly, and sometimes they didn't say that they knew me, and it looked random, so it almost felt like every man was trying to get me to have sex with them, and it just made it really difficult to associate like the difference in like what was a good man and what was a bad man. It was the kind of constant reminders that I was a slut. There was another time where I was tricked into going to a party. The guy had kind of like given me a lot of false reassurance. He'd been saying things like, "Oh, I'm not like the other guys." So I went to this party with him, and he poured me this very large glass of vodka with lemonade. It was like half and half, like one of those tall glasses, and it was half and half. Half of the glass was vodka, and I was like looking at the glass thinking, oh my goodness, I can't drink that. If I'd have drank the amount that he'd poured me, then I would have been paralytic by the end of the glass. So this was about 4 months into the abuse, and I was being raped regularly, like sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, and then sometimes more than one man in a day. And I was feeling very like partly upset with myself, and secondly, I was trying to take control when I didn't have any when I felt that I didn't have any control. So I sometimes was like seeking out sex myself so that I could have sex consensually, and I was trying to make active decisions on like whether I was wanted to sleep with somebody or not, and then I was trying to like differentiate the difference between sex and rape, and men that I wanted to sleep with and men that I didn't want to sleep with. So I had thought to myself that like I'll sleep with him. So he kind of like led me into a room and wanted me, and then like I was going to consent to sex with him. But then when it actually came to doing it, he actually forcibly anally raped me, and I wasn't expecting it. It was extremely painful, and I tried to crawl away, but he managed to pin me with my head against the headboard, and pin me in one place so I couldn't get out. So I just had to persevere with it until he'd finished. And then when he got off me, he like humiliated me by inviting all his friends in to the room to look at me. And I was naked. I was embarrassed. He comes out afterwards and shows his friends the blood on the condom afterwards. I thought, I want to put my clothes on. Where are my clothes? And I found my underwear, and I started putting my underwear back on, and I started putting my trousers back on, and a guy sat next to me and put his arm around me, and he said, "Why are you getting dressed?" And then I thought, no, someone else wants to have sex with me after that. I thought, no, I can't do this. So I didn't even know what to say, but I just ignored him and like carried on putting my clothes on. And then when I got dressed, I tried to just leave, and he grabbed hold of, like, the guy that had taken me to the party, he grabbed hold of me and he said, "Why are you trying to leave? Like, come back into the party, like, everything's fine." After all of that, like, I had to go back into like the main area of the party, and then that was really humiliating because everyone knew what had happened, and everyone was there. And then like men were talking to me in a different way as well. Like every man like was taking it in turns to like come and sit next to me and try and flirt with me to try and get me into the bedroom. One man who sat down and spoke to me took the sort of route of like trying to befriend me and get me to trust him, and saying, "Oh, you know, he shouldn't have done that. That was really bad." And he told me a couple of things about him, like that he always does this to women, and that some girls come out of the room crying and screaming, and sometimes you hear screams coming from the room while he's in there with them. When he was saying that there was girls screaming in the room, he was laughing about it. He made out that like the girls deserved it for some reason, you know, like he was punishing them for something that they'd done. And his friend, that guy, was like justifying it in some way. And then like he said, like, "I don't know what you're doing here. Like, a girl like you shouldn't be here. This is a sex party and everybody like takes it in turns. Look at these other girls that were here." There were two other women there. They were actually older than me, so I didn't really think anything of it, but they were very drunk as well. "I'll take you home," he said, but then he didn't take me home straight away. He wanted to have sex with me first. And I kind of thought to myself, like, if I just have sex with one more person, then that's still better than having to have sex with all of them. I can't believe that, like, somebody would want to have sex with me after I'd just been raped. And I didn't say no, but I didn't say yes either. I just didn't say anything. He just, like, led me into the bedroom and sat me down on the bed and pushed me down so that I lay down, and no words were like exchanged at all. I just didn't say anything, and I just felt like, you know, like I felt like defeated when I lay down, because I just was hoping that he wouldn't want to have sex with me, and but he did. So, but I think, like, I thought in my own mind that this was it now. He did take me home in the end.
How did you manage to escape all of this abuse with the Telford gang?
I think there was probably about 13 men in total before I managed to escape. So within that like 4-month period, I'd been raped by 13 men. So I came up with all these different ways of like dealing with the situation I was in, and one of them was that if I could go back to college for another year, then, I know it doesn't make sense, but for an 18-year-old, it was like the only thing I could think of. Then most of the time I would be out because I would be studying. So like I just wanted to keep myself busy out of the house so that they couldn't knock on the door and I'd be in like doing nothing. So I went up to college and I was like, I want to go back for another year. This was like one of the tutors. She said, go and over to the student advisor and she'll find you a university course. So I sat with the student advisor. She was like, what do you want to do? And like we came up with like brainstormed a couple of courses, and this was September by that time. We looked at the list of universities, and one thing I said was, I don't want to go to Birmingham University and I don't want to go to Wolverhampton University, because both of those universities were too close in my mind. And if I went to either of those universities, I thought, they'll come and get me. They'll come and get me from Telford. The next one was Anglia Ruskin, which was in Essex. I was thinking, how far away is Essex? When we had a look, it was like 140 miles. And I thought, 140 miles. They're not going to come 140 miles to get me. And then by the 26th of September, I moved out and I was there. And it was my first day of uni. So it all happened so quickly, because it was like the 4th of September when I sat down with the student advisor, and before that I had no idea that I would end up at university. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I didn't tell William, didn't tell anyone. In their mind, like, I mean, as far as they like saw or knew anything, like one day I was there and then the next day I was gone. And I'd moved out and everything, because I just moved out in one day. Unfortunately, like, I was abused all the way up until the day I left.
When you went to the uni, did you feel like it was freedom?
Yeah, like I felt like I guess it gave me like a bit of a sense of like, I felt religious about it. I felt like God had like literally picked me up out of the middle of hell and put me at university like in one day. And I felt a bit like the whole thing was a bit surreal. Like one day I was in a lot of trouble in a really bad place, and then the next minute I was absolutely fine. And I did struggle emotionally a bit because everyone was really nice to me and I didn't feel like I deserved it. I felt like I had a secret, and that if people actually knew like who I was, it made me feel different to everyone else. So it was quite difficult to get on with people. Not like that I was falling out with people, but that like I just felt different. So I really did struggle to like make friends. Later on, when I'm trying to have like consensual sex, like I'd get flashbacks of the first time that I'd done that position. So it would like make it upsetting to have sex. And when I wouldn't want to ruin the experience for the guy, so I just like ignore the flashback that I had and just like carry on. But yeah, they wouldn't, men don't like to think that you're thinking about someone else. and they'd probably like be really upset if they thought that I was thinking about rape. So I would just ignore it and just carry on, and I wouldn't let it ruin it. It took years until like that stopped happening. Sorry.
It's absolutely okay. We have time. How many men were involved with abuse in the Birmingham gang?
I mean, I counted 70 while I was like going through the worst of it.
How did you manage to break away from all of that?
I tried my best not to see them, and I tried to pick like honest activities over, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like I tried to pick like good activities over negative activities. So like I tried to pick friends that I could go to coffee with and go to a coffee shop with them or go shopping with them, rather than spending time with friends where I would end up like smoking weed or doing drugs or having sex. I tried to, you know, if my family were inviting me out, or if there was a trip to a theme park or something like that, I would pick that over going to spend time with the gang. I tried not to drink any alcohol. I did drugs for about a year, and then because I felt so guilty about the drugs I was taking, and like made me feel like a really bad person. And it probably was really terrible for my mental health as well. I only went back to the gang in Birmingham when I was like having a weak moment, and that's like how I would describe it. I did a bunch of things to try and stop myself having weak moments. Like I changed my number all the time so that men weren't able to continue contacting me and then tempting me back or trying to convince me back. Because I think that part of the grooming that I'd suffered like meant that things like sex pests and sexual harassment and pressure was like, it was much easier to get me to comply. Like I found it really difficult to get out of. I was easily manipulated. But apparently that is a good tactic as well. So it's something that the police advise, and it's something that sometimes sort of charities advise to help you like get rid of gangs. And
were any of your abusers ever brought to justice?
Yeah, so I reported it again in 2010, and the police took it much more seriously than they did last time. The reason I reported it is because I'd got to like my third year of nursing, and I started to feel like guilty for not reporting it, because I began to like realise how dangerous some of the behaviours were of the people in Telford. I'd kind of was learning that it wasn't all my fault, like I'd thought it was. So I went back to Essex Police, and I'd said like, I've reported a rape before, but I want to report it again because I wasn't satisfied with the result at the time. And a load of other things happened afterwards, and that's how I kind of saw it, and that's how I kind of worded it. Because I put a lot of blame on the first rape for the rest of my behaviour afterwards, because I felt like if I hadn't been raped, then I wouldn't have been so easy with the other guys. Some of the names that I'd mentioned were men that were already being investigated for other sexual offences. That brought about 3 court cases, and two of them were found guilty and one man was found not guilty. But I still kind of see that as a victory, because at least like I was really glad that when Shamil was found guilty, because I felt like he was a catalyst for everything else. And like if a jury agreed that like he'd raped me the first time, and that was the first rape, then that kind of made me feel a bit better about everything else that happened, because I know that like psychologically I was in a bad place. So it was that particular court case was really important to me. And he was found guilty of like all counts. That meant that he would be in prison for at least the next 9 years, because he was already serving another sentence. So it added time onto his sentence. It's been longer now. It's been longer than 10 years, and he is still in prison at the moment. So it has like made a difference, and it has hopefully protected other people from him. I told my story to it's called the National Referral Mechanism for victims of modern day slavery, and they agreed that what happened to me in Birmingham was considered modern day slavery. So I get a certain amount of funding for psychological support because of that. And I regularly had thoughts in my head at the time that like I'm basically a free prostitute. Like I basically perform a service for free, and that's basically what I do. And I think those thoughts in my head were warning signs that I was a slave, and I was acting as a slave at the time.
How are you now?
I'm actually in a good place now. You know, I qualified as a nurse, and I qualified in 2012, so I've been a nurse officially for 10 years. I really value my, I guess like now I value my experience. Don't want to say it in a negative way, but like at least it helps me help other people mentally. I've had therapy, which I think really helps, and I'd encourage anybody else to get therapy if they are struggling like with things like their own behaviours, or they wonder a lot why they do things, and sometimes people think that talking to someone won't help them, but actually it does help. It helps to like translate into language how you feel. Also, therapists can like teach you techniques to help you cope. If it's one thing that like I'd want to like tell other people is like that you can actually get here. Like, and I actually had as little self-respect and self-belief and like self-worth as anyone who was in my situation would have. I couldn't see the future, and I didn't think there was a future, and so I am like ultimately like blown away that like I'm actually fine. I actually got here. So I just want other people to know who are going through like really bad time at the moment. They've got no belief in themselves, that actually there is something to look forward to, and even if you can't see what's ahead of you, just hope for the best, and something good will come.
He looked young, he did look young, but it was after the marriage that I knew that he was twice my age. So I was 15, he was 30. I knew who was going to rape me, and that's what happened. and it became like every single day.